Hey guys, welcome to this week's video. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. This week I have a few thrifted items that we're going to use some Sweet Pickins milk paint on. And I experimented with a couple of things just so you guys would know if they work or not. I think it was a success. So I hope that you watch this video, find out what the tricks are. And then I also use some transfers on milk paint. Sometimes that can be a little bit tricky. I hope that I gave you some solutions to be successful with putting an IOD transfer on milk paint. If you need any of the products that I showed you here today in this video, you can visit my shop at thepaintedphotographer.com and I'll ship them right to your front door. If you're local, you can find the DIY paint at Foreman's Farm Home. If you'd like any of my thrifted treasures, check the website. And I also have my stuff at the gift shop on Main Street in Medford, Wisconsin. Now let's get to this. See you at the end. For the first project, I found this thrifted bunny frame. Those bunnies are absolutely adorable. It might be a little faded, but it's okay. We're going to make this frame and this picture look totally different. I used the DIY crinoline and went around with an even coat, painting the entire sides and face of this frame. I did not take the glass out. The back was put so well together on this frame that I didn't want to disturb that backing on here. At the end, I will just take a baby wipe and wipe off some of that excess paint, giving that frame a little distressed look. And then I will seal it with a coat of Big Top. And using a razor blade, I will go around all of the inside of the frame, scraping the paint off the glass. This was such an easy project and it turned out really sweet. I have had this bread box in my stash for a while, and it's time to get rid of some of these things. I did take a sander and sanded over this entire bread box, giving the milk paint a little bit of tooth to get into. It was really dusty. I'm going to take lemon drop, mixing it with equal parts water. There was 2 scoops of water, now 2 scoops of lemon drop, and you mix that up thoroughly until you get a kind of like a melted milkshake liquid. And it was a little bright for me. I'm adding a half a scoop of antique ironstone just to dull down that lemon drop and make it a little bit more dull. And so I went in and painted the entire bread box on the outside with that lemon drop color. I really, really liked this color. It wasn't very bright. It was just a nice yellow color. And it really works well for being in a kitchen and bringing in the springtime. That first coat really doesn't cover very well. Don't get discouraged about that first coat. Just go in with your second coat when that is thoroughly dried and go over the entire base of that bread box one more time. I've found that if I leave my milk paint project sit for a day, it will have some extra crackle that comes through. And I went in with the finger sander and sanded off all of those areas that it was going to chip right off. On the top, it chipped off a little bit more than it did in other areas. I either didn't sand it as well or it had some oils or something from being used before that were poking through. But I did want a chippy look. I am using the Sweet Pickins top coat in satin to seal this up. I want to put a transfer on here and I just feel like it's chipping a little bit too much for that.
After that was completely dry, I came in with the Alyssum transfer. This is my absolute favorite. It is 4 pieces, and they can either all go together as one decor or they can be split apart. This was one sheet that I had. I cut a straight line on that side, and now I need to cut a straight line on the top, and then I'll do the same thing for the bottom and cut that straight line to fit on the front of that door. And at this transfer, there is words on it. So make sure that you're using this transfer so the words are in the correct position. Sometimes you would like to put this one where the flowers are going up, but then your words are going to be upside down. So just pay attention to the words. I did that mistake more than once. This Alyssum transfer, I bet I have used 5 or 6 full books of these. It is my absolute favorite. I wonder if the spring, if you want to check it out, head to my website at thepaintedphotographer.com and check one out for yourself. After that was completely burnished in, I came in with the Sweet Pickens dark oil wax to seal up this transfer and also to seal up that milk paint. Some of that milk paint on the top was continuing to chip off. And if you want your milk paint to stop chipping, the dark oil wax is what you need. You need an oil-based sealer to stop the chipping. A water-based sealer is not going to stop the chipping, it's going to enhance the chipping. So I went in and wiped off all of that dark oil wax after about sitting on the bread box for about 20 minutes and making sure that I got all of those areas off, and this bread box is ready to go. Let me know what you think of this project. After that project was done, I had a little bit of that lemon drop left in my container. So I came in with some more water to add to this already lemon drop mixture. And then I came in with pantry door and I went right into the lemon drop water. And it's just going to give that green pantry door color just a little bit more yellowish green look to it. For this project, you can see I painted it once and it chipped off. So I came straight in with Extra Bond. I know Salvation Solution from DIY works this well, so I was wondering if Extra Bond would work the same. Extra Bond is made to add into the paint. Now, I just painted it onto the project. I did not add it into the paint. I came in with a Sweet Pickens wax bar, went around the edges so that if it does stick very well, at least my edges will chip back or allow me to sand them back. I went in with this pantry door mixture with a little bit of yellow. You can't hardly even tell. So after 2 coats, this is what it looked like. I have some cracking, but I do not have chipping except on the edges where I did not add the Extra Bond. And you can see not adding the Extra Bond, this just chips right off. If I wouldn't have added the Extra Bond to the face of this cutting board, I think I'd have the same results as I did the last time. So I did sand around the edges of this just to give it a little bit of distress look. Another one of my favorite transfers is Katharina. Katharina is a small book and it is chocked full of so many flowers, so many different flowers, not just roses. I feel like sometimes they give us way too many roses. I want other flowers, and this one is chocked full of them. And I bet I've used the same amount. I bet I've used four of these books entirely. I've used every single piece of these books that I've purchased. So I am going to add the bird to the center of this cutting board, and then I'm going to cut out the flowers and put them all in a pile and decides which ones are going to look really good around this bird. I picked all the spring flowers, the blossoms, the pinks, the yellows, and just added them around the outside of this cutting board. And I did not coat this cutting board with anything. That extra bond really made that paint tough. It is staying put. So I went around with the scraper and you just scrape off the image onto the cutting board. You can see I keep my hand really close to where I'm scraping. This will help you to not have your transfer jump and cause a crack in your design. If you just keep your hand very close, your transfer does not have the opportunity to jump and cause a crack. After the image is totally onto the board, you can pick up your transfer. If there's any little spots, you can lay it back down, scrape it, and get that to lay down. Remove the transfer slowly, and after it is totally removed, then you take the transfer back and you rub on top of it. This is called burnishing to make sure that transfer is completely stuck. We'll do the rest of this plate.
Driving all night long to the place where I belong, back to where I started from, the only place that I call home. 17 around the bend, drinking with my old best friend, listening to the radio. I thought we'd stay until the end. It wasn't always right, but it wasn't all that bad. This was all we had. And when I see it now, I always feel so free. I guess this town's still a big part of me. That's the spot where
Now this branch did not go all the way to the anything to anchor it, so I am a firm believer that it needs to be anchored. So I came in with my DIY weathered wood crinoline, and this is Fancy Farm Girl, and I'm going to make my own branch and anchor these birds to the center of that tray. And branches are fairly easy. You're just making lines. You can paint right over top of the transfer to make it blend into your new design and make it fit. And then I added a few more branches, and this tray is totally complete.
someone else anyhow. That's where I saw Jenny first. Man, I think I almost burst. I heard that she's a doctor now. She got out of this place somehow. Oh, it wasn't always right, but it wasn't all that bad. This was all we had. wasn't all that bad. This was all we had. When I see it now, I always feel so free. I guess this town's still a big part of me. It wasn't always right, but it wasn't all that bad. This was all we had. When I see it now.
I sanded over top of the transfer very, very lightly, especially on the edges. I wanted it to be broken and distressed on the edges, and then went back over the entire transfer with this 110 sandpaper and just distressed it to make it not look so brand new.
Town's still a big part of me. Guess this town's still a big part of me.
I came back to seal it with a coat of the DIY's Big Top just to seal in that transfer. I wanted everything to have a really hard coat and to make sure it stayed where I put it. So after that DIY Big Top coat was completely dry, I came back in with the Sweet Pickens oil wax, dark oil wax, so that it could seep down into all those little crazing cracks that are there. I left this on for about 20 minutes and then came back in and wiped it off.
Guys my age laugh at my jokes, treat me like one of the bros. Think I'm cool, but they would never date me. 'Cause girls my age have tiny waists, skin tight denim, baby faces, dance at the bar like no one's watching. And I'm just a flower on the wall, not someone you'd ever fall for. But in a couple weeks, you look at me. When I get pretty, then you'll want me. I'll be picture perfect to make you happy. I'll be dancing, center of attention, vision of the one.
I had these jars that I had painted from my last video for IOD. I did not use these jars. So having jars is the perfect way to use up some of these Katharina transfers, and they look absolutely amazing on jars. Putting your flowers in them or just letting them sit on your shelf without any florals in them, they really bring spring into your decor. So I transferred these onto the jars using the transfer stick, and again keeping my hand very close, and you will end up with no cracks. All of these little images work so great for small jars. So these two small jars that I had, these images will go on there as well. And I do want you to know that I did put Sweet Pickens dark oil wax onto this jar. I didn't realize that I had done that until I was adding the transfer. The transfer is going on very, very well. But again, this jar has sat for over a month waiting with nothing on it. But you can tell there's oil wax on this jar because of in the ridges on the top. You can see it in there. So a transfer went over top of the dark oil wax. Isn't that fascinating? I then went back over all three jars again with that Sweet Pickens dark oil wax and added a little bit of age and a little bit of vintage to these three jars.
Insecurities wouldn't get the best of me. Baby, I'm out of this world. Doable, your cover girl. Wouldn't have to work 'cause I get things for free. And I'm just a flower on the wall, not someone you'd ever fall for. But in a couple weeks, you look at me, and I get pretty, then Vision of the woman that you wanted me to be when I get pretty.
Now I have this metal tray. Normally I would put Salvation Solution on here, but since that is hard to get a hold of, I'm going to use some Extra Bond and see if this will work. So I put straight Extra Bond, that is from Sweet Pickens, onto the tray. I did not mix it in with the paint. I just painted it onto the tray. And guys, I'm telling you, this stuff dries really, really fast. So make sure that you work very quickly. I then wanted some of them edges and that rust to come through. So I went over with the Sweet Pickens beeswax bar and added it to the edges and to a little bit of that rust. And I just wanted to bring back some of those details. I'm going back in with my pantry door mixture and painting the entire tray with the pantry door. And I do want you to know that I did Extra Bond the sides, but I did not Extra Bond the bottom. And this is what happened to the bottom. The entire thing, I ended up sanding the entire thing completely off, but look at the top. I did get some cracking, but it did not flake off. Isn't this fascinating? Extra Bond is going to work like a Salvation Solution does. And both products are amazing to me. I did go in with a second coat because I wanted it to be a little bit more fuller coverage, and it let it sit for an entire night and came back and gave it a little bit of a sanding. You can see that I have more cracking than I did the day before, but it does not come off. This is where I put my wax bar. So it should be coming off a little bit, and it's taking a really tough time to get some of that off to expose that rust, but it is totally worth it. I came back in with another one of the Katharina transfers and transferred that on, not putting Big Top on or anything. I'm just transferring right on to the milk paint with the Extra Bond on the bottom. So on the bottom of the tray, you can see that it just did not hold whatsoever. And I just relate this all to putting the Extra Bond on it. And the top is perfect. I absolutely love it. I am so ecstatic about how this turned out. And I couldn't wait to share it with you. So then I go in with the Sweet Pickens Dark Oil Wax to enhance some of that cracking and make this tray look like it's really old. Let me know what you think about this project and what you think about this method in the comments below. I think if you don't have any Extra Bond, you should probably grab some from my website at thepaintedphotographer.com.
When I get pretty, then you want me. I'll be picture perfect to make you happy. I'll be dancing, center of attention. A vision of the woman that you wanted me to be. When I get pretty, then you want me. I'll be picture perfect.
I've had many questions about my dark oil wax and my brush. This is how I clean it. I never clean my brush besides wiping it off with a paper towel when I'm finished. And then this cup that I use, I just put my paper towel in there and then I clean out the bottom. I burn these paper towels because they could combust. So make sure that you're disposing of all your rags in the proper way. I do not want you to have a fire. Let me know what you think of these projects.
Center of attention, vision of the woman that you wanted me to
I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thanks again for watching. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, give me a hype. Hype is new. It should be down below this video. And all that does is just push my algorithm higher to the top. And for that, I thank you. I hope that you enjoyed these thrifted projects. They are really good. Like, I am in love with them. I listed them on my website for you to purchase. If there's any products that you need, the Sweet Pickins Milk Paint is 35% off Flour Sack this month. And we're almost into February, so I have the second color coming out in February. What are your guesses? What do you think it is? They're 35% off. Flour Sack is for January. It's happening right now. You can't beat that deal. You have to go and grab yourself some Flour Sack milk paint because it'll last forever. Thank you again. I appreciate you. And until next time, happy painting.
She's got a hold on me. She knows how to drive a truck, but she lets me pick her up when we're going dancing. My heart stops beating when my headlights shining on her. She's my country girl.